God is faithful even when we fail in having faith. Now what does this mean? Now when you look at Genesis chapter 12, this is now when Abraham was called by God to come out of his family, to come out of his country, to go into a land that God was going to show him. So God told him that he was going to turn him into a great nation, that he was going to bless those who bless him, and then he was going to curse those who curse him. So Abraham took his wife and Lot and all their possessions, and they were led by God all the way to the land of Canaan. And then when they got to that land, God appeared to Abraham, and then he told him that he was going to give that land to his descendants. Now after that, Abraham built an altar, and then he pitched his tent. After a while, there was a great famine on that land. Then Abraham started heading to Egypt. And then just before they got to Egypt, he told his wife, because his wife was very beautiful, he was afraid for his life, that when the Egyptians see his wife, that they were going to kill him and take his wife from him. So he told his wife that when any Egyptian asked them about their relationship, that they were brother and sister, they were siblings. So of course when they got to Egypt, the Pharaoh princesses, the princess of Pharaoh, they noticed Sarah and they recommended Sarah to Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. And then of course the king of Egypt received Sarah from Abraham, thinking that Sarah was a sister to Abraham. And Abraham willingly gave his wife to Pharaoh. Now God came and plagued Pharaoh and his household. And of course after Pharaoh found out that he was being plagued because he had taken a man's wife, that was Sarah, he called Abraham and he returned his wife in anger. He returned his wife to him, asking him very many rhetorical questions. Now after he returned to him, after he returned Sarah to him, he kicked him out of Egypt. And then Abraham went all the way back to Canaan. He went all the way back to Canaan with everything he had been given by Pharaoh. You know, when Pharaoh took Sarah from Abraham, he treated Abraham very well. He gave him oxen, he gave him a lot of riches, even female servants. He gave him a lot of things. And so Abraham left Egypt a very rich man, and he went back to Canaan, all the way back to where he had pitched his tent and built an altar. He went all the way back. Now, I want you to look at this story very well. Now, when you look at the beginning, God blessed Abraham. He blessed him and told him that he was going to make him into a great nation. And if that's not enough, God also appeared to him in Canaan and told him that that land, he was going to give it to his descendants. So it goes without saying that God was ready to protect him, to make sure that his word takes effect in his life, to make sure that God keeps his word. He was ready to protect him. But when Abraham was going to Egypt, he partially forgot what God had told him, what God had promised him. And he gave his wife as his sister to Pharaoh. But since God is faithful, he came and plagued Pharaoh and his family and his household because of Sarah, so that Sarah would be returned back to Abraham, because God had promised him that he was going to turn him into a great nation. Now, it does not matter how unfaithful you have been in what God had promised you. It does not matter how you have failed in faith. God's faithfulness will never fail. God's faithfulness will never lack effect. You know, in Romans chapter 3 verse 3, it tells us that man's unbelief will not make the faithfulness of God without effect. And when you look at this book called the Bible, you can actually make one fact, that God comes in response to his word. He does not respond because of pain. It does not respond because you deserve it. He responds to prayers because of his word. He comes in response to his word. So if you want anything to be answered into your life, if you want anything in your life, learn the word of God and learn how to quote it back to him so that he would respond not according to your pain, not according to your needs, but according to his own word. But even if you know the word of God, do not just quote it to him anyhow. The word of God says that you enter his courts with praise, not with accusations. If you use the word of God to accuse him that something is not happening in your life, and yet the word of God says that it should be, when you go into his courts with accusation, you will not be heard. You will not even enter his courts. But when you learn how to properly quote his word back to him, believe you me, you will see a great difference in your life. You know, a long time ago, I learned that what you say, how you say something is way more important than what you say. How you say something, that is where respect comes in. How you say something, that is where your attitude comes in. So if I've left anything out, kindly share it in the comments. Thank you and God bless.